Good afternoon. We are inside China business. There is a saying that gamblers use, and it's playing with house money. If you go to a casino with $1,000 and you win another $1,000, it means that you've just won $1,000 in house money. You can put the original $1,000 back in your pocket, and now whatever happens the rest of the night, you can't lose. There are two friends who live in a city. Frank has a factory in town. Mike is his close friend who has a mine in the city. They're close friends, but they also do a lot of business together. Mike's mine produces raw materials that Frank's factory needs to make products to sell to customers. So they do a lot of business together, and they're also good friends, and their wives are good friends. One day they decide they're going to have some fun. They're going to take $1,000 each, and they're going to go up to a casino and gamble. And they're going to keep gambling until they either make a lot of money or until they go broke. So off they go. They drive up to the casino. Each of them has $1,000. And Frank, the guy with the factory, takes his $1,000 and plays poker. Mike, the miner, goes and takes his $1,000 and plays blackjack. 4 hours later, Mike is out of money. He's broke. So he goes and finds Frank, who's playing poker, but Frank is having a great day. He's turned his $1,000 into $10,000. Mike says, "I'm out of money. I'm tired and I want to go home." But Frank says, "No, I'm doing okay. Here, take another $1,000, go play some more, and your luck is going to change." 4 hours later, Mike is out of money again. He goes to Frank and says, "I'm tired, I want to go home." But Frank now is up $50,000, and he doesn't want to go home. He wants to keep playing. So he tells Mike, "Take another $1,000, go and play some more, and your luck is going to change." 4 hours later, you guessed it, Mike is out of money again. He comes back and finds Frank. Frank is now up $100,000. And they both agree that they're tired now and it's time to go home. Now they're in the car together, riding back to town. And it's uncomfortable between them. Frank had a great day, but Mike is very angry about how the day went. And Frank can feel it too. Frank can feel how awkward now the situation is, because he had one of the best days of his life, but his friend Mike brought the $1,000, and now he not only lost that, but he lost another $2 that he owes to Frank. Frank thinks it over and reaches into his money bag and gives Mike $2,000. And he says, "I had one of the best days of my life. I had a wonderful time, and it was only because you were there with me. And I'm very glad we got to spend the day together. Please take the $1,000 so you're back to even, and then take another $1,000. Because I know your wife is going to be angry with you for spending the day at the casino anyway. But if you come home with $1,000, she'll be happy. And obviously, just forget about the $2,000 that I loaned you during the day. Because the way I see it, two friends went to a casino and we took them for a lot of money." And miner Mike accepts the money and nothing more is said. But Mike realizes that this was a very elegant and face-saving way to solve this problem. Their friendship is more important than money, but Mike does feel like he was taken advantage of because he wanted to go home $2,000 in losses ago. And it's true that now his wife is going to be quite happy with the way the day turned out, and she'll let him go again. Later, when he remembers this day, Mike is going to realize that this was an important day in their relationship because he was in a bad situation that turned to the good. And now he has a different kind of respect, even an admiration for his friend and how to handle friendships and how to handle business relationships. China's Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. The Belt and Road Initiative is about 12 or 13 years old now. And in total, it's over $1 trillion in loans and infrastructure investments from China to countries in the developing world to help them develop logistics, highways, roads, mines, farms, ports. All the money China loaned them was house money. All the money that they had to lend has been money they earned through trading surpluses in their trading accounts. China has earned, on average, $2 billion every day, every week, every year, for decades, going out to forever. $2 billion a day. This is house money that they turned around and invested in the developing world. From the Chinese perspective, these investments have done something else. They have really tightened their grip and deepened their control of the most important parts of the supply chains at the very top. Name any natural resource, and there's a small group of Chinese companies that now control most of the extraction and nearly 100% of the world's refining. Now, though, the borrowers of the Belt and Road Initiative money are facing a major problem. These loans and investments were made in US dollars, and they had to be repaid in US dollars. In the United States, bad fiscal and monetary policy have really screwed things up at home, and they've also screwed things up in the international foreign reserves market. This year, 2024, the United States has to roll over, that is refinance, $7.6 trillion in old debt. This is debt, frankly, that should have been refinanced a couple of years ago when rates were very, very low. It was a terrible policy error on the part of Treasury officials. So that's $7.6 trillion in refinancings. We also are going to borrow another $3 trillion just to get through this year. So that is a total of $10 trillion, 10.6, which needs to be borrowed from the world's capital markets. A lot of that money is sitting abroad right now, and it will be going back to the United States to be lent back to the US Treasury at higher rates. By the way, that's going to cause a lot more inflation at home. But now this is a serious problem for foreign countries and foreign companies. Anybody who has to pay a debt back using US dollars, because US dollars now are becoming scarce abroad, but they're becoming very cheap at home. This is all a very weird situation, and it's probably never happened before in the history of the whole world, where you have the world's largest creditor nation, China, who has made over $1 trillion in loans in the currency of the world's biggest debtor nation, the United States. And now the countries that owe the money are struggling to pay it back. And why are these companies and countries struggling to pay back their US dollar loans? It's not because the mines aren't producing, because they are. It's not because farms aren't growing food, because they are. It's not because the ports aren't loading ships, because the ships are being loaded. It's because all the US dollars are being sucked out of the system to feed the US government's overspending. So where does this leave everyone? China does not want any of the people they loan money to go bankrupt. What they do not want is for a country to sell its mines or sell its ports to raise money to pay the loans back. That would be the worst thing for everybody. So what China is doing is lending their own money this time. They're lending RMB. And these are operating loans. It's to help the borrowers buy them time so they can eventually trade their way out of this problem. This way the mines can keep producing. The raw materials can keep coming. As long as the raw materials come into China today, China can turn them into $2 billion worth of trade surpluses tomorrow. And here is where the Chinese deflation problem can actually perhaps help, because regulators can use transfer pricing techniques to manage the situation even faster. For example, they can agree to pay slightly above market clearing prices to suppliers to help them trade their imbalances a little bit better. I haven't seen any evidence they're actually doing this yet, but at least it's an option for them. The Chinese banking system, the lending and borrowing, is considered a state secret. The data that they do publish has a long time lag, and we can only really understand what's going on here by watching what other people are doing. It's kind of like gravity. We know it's real, and we know it's a powerful force, but we can't see it. We can only observe and measure it by observing and measuring the effects it has on other things. That's what trying to understand Chinese capital markets is like. But there's a lot that we can know by watching what people are doing. For example, we know that Western banks are complaining that the new Chinese loans are considered senior in debt repayment to loans they've made, the loans that are currently outstanding. Observers also complain that the interest rates charged by Chinese banks are much higher than what you can get from the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Chinese rates are typically at 5%, IMF rates are 2%. Obviously, if IMF funds were available at 2%, they wouldn't be borrowing at 5%. And again, we're living in a strange world where a developing country borrowing at 5% to work out distressed debt is still borrowing at about the same rate the US Treasury is. So everything about the situation is upside down and screwy. Inflation is terrible in the United States. The very definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few things. And it's about to get a lot worse. And overseas, however, we don't have enough dollars. The US government is spending so much and borrowing so much that they're sucking out all the liquidity from the system around the world. And now nobody can do business outside the US. So this is going to require a lot of flexibility from everyone. For China, this has always been house money, and they keep making more. But it's going to require of them a lot of patience and time and forbearance to help everybody else work through these problems too. Thank you. Be good.